Why am I doing a rich roll podcast? What have I got to say? What is there? There's nothing. This is insane. What are you doing?
My guest today is
Orlando Bloom!
From films such as The Lord of the Rings,
Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl,
as well as films such as Troy, Kingdom of Heaven, and Gran Turismo.
You're known all around the world. What do people not understand about what that experience is like?
I was freaked out. Freaked out. It was crazy. It was bonkers.
His latest offering is To the Edge, a limited docuseries in which he shoulders 3 quite risky challenges.
Come on, Orlando.
Wingsuiting, free diving, and climbing.
I felt my life was in my hands. And so I was like terrified. Pushing the edges showed me that coming back to the center is a blessing.
This one goes deep.
I achieved more in my 20s than I thought I ever would. And I realized that most of those things that I thought was going to make me happy didn't make me happy. I'm just so grateful for everything. You know, all of it.
Today's episode is brought to you by the awesome organizations that make this show possible. Orlando, thank you for doing this, man. It's so nice to have you here. I'm thrilled to explore your life today. I enjoyed the show. I binged it last night.
Thanks for
and
watching.
Just delighted to learn a little bit more about who you are.
Thanks, man. Well, thanks for watching. I'm so grateful to be here. I will say I feel quite open and vulnerable at the moment with the show coming out. The first time I've done a unscripted, and I of course read up on you a little bit as well, and you're amazing, and the people that you have on this show are like insanely amazing. Gives hope for society, actually, in many ways.
Trying to put a little positivity
what am
out
I
there.
doing here?
No.
Kind of.
I mean, listen, you've lived an extraordinary life, and although the facts of your background are very different from mine, you know, I think we share a lot of commonality in our proneness towards extremes and how pushing that edge can be a guru. It can be a way to explore darkness and light, to kind of dance with the polarities. And I think your show really explores that. You know, I think I had first of all, it's great. I loved it. And there's 2 kind of like main takeaways on a kind of top level meta level from the show that resonated with me. And the first is that like you're a seeker and you're on this kind of path towards growth. And the show is a way of exploring kind of where you were at. I mean, that was like 2 years ago, right? When you actually filmed it? It was a while ago.
Yeah, probably. Well, yeah. A little less, but yeah. But in that window of about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. But it's sort of this capsule that illustrates where you're at on this trajectory, which is an ongoing thing, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that was my first takeaway, and I have questions about that. But the second one is really about, you know, these gifts that we find in exploring the extreme and how that is confronting for a lot of people who would say that you should really be aspiring to a life that is in balance. So I guess the first question I would have is like, when people say like, just live a balanced life, can't you just like be in the middle a little bit? Like for me, that ruffles my feathers. And I've kind of gone full circle in how I process that, but I'm sure people say that to you.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, it's true. Don't disagree with any of that. Just find life to be more exhilarating on the outside of it. On the edges of it. And actually, perhaps for me and for us sometimes pushing our edge and stepping out to that place is where you appreciate the center, where you appreciate the middle ground. Because I would say in some ways, you know, I've been asked a few times what I would do again. Wingsuiting is one of the most exhilarating feelings, and I would love to get back up there with Luke or Jack, who was amazing. But I've sort of simplified a little bit in some ways. I'm like, I'll keep doing these things and taking action. But like I'm finding taking action in my daily life there are smaller things that just require bigger moments so that I'm going, oh, that's just take action, keep doing it, keep doing what you're doing, keep moving forward. And actually pushing the edges showed me that coming back to the center is a blessing.
Appreciating the mundanity, the small moments.
Yeah, which maybe I haven't historically.
Yeah. Yeah. So dancing in the extremes allows you to appreciate the meaning that you find in the small moments of everyday life, being a dad,
being able to
showing up
be
for your
super
kids,
present,
all those sorts of things.
Like being in the extremes forced this like uber presence. Like if I wasn't supremely present to my experience in that moment, particularly with wingsuiting because of the position of the body in the suit and what's required, I felt my life was in my hands. And so I was like terrified and I was like never more alive and feeling exhilarated. And so when I come home now, it's sort of like, just keep being present. Just how do I focus on, just how do I keep that presence alive and vital, right, in my life, with my daughter, with my partner, with my family, with my friends, whatever, with myself at times.
And the half-life of that experience persists. In other words, you had that experience like 2 years ago, but you're still able to be present with what it taught you and bring that into your life? Or do you feel like you have to still go out and taste that in order to be present with that experience so you can be present in the moment?
I would say that it was a reveal about the nature of my way of looking at life and thinking, and the sort of habits that I had become like the habits that had become part of my life, the impulsive behavior, the impulsive nature of my life, which is easy to kind of look back over my life and see the history and why, the wheres and whys and how's all of that happened. I think that like it showed me that like I don't have to be on the edge to live and feel like I'm on the edge. Mm-hmm. Do you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think extreme peak experiences like wingsuiting or free diving or the climbing that you did in the show can be these teachers. They are gurus, but they can also be, like, the dark side of that is that they can be escapes. They're a way to numb yourself or to run away from, mundane moments, to escape from the self. You can use them as a portal to explore your interior self and what makes you you so that you can become the most authentic version of who you are. There's a self-actualization like piece to it. But I think also a lot of people use it as a way of running away from themselves. And so understanding that difference and knowing where you are all these things are on a spectrum, of course. Like, am I using this to better myself, to become a more, fully actualized Orlando? Or am I doing this because I have a hard time being present in my life and I need these peak experiences in order to kind of tolerate, the mundanity of the average life?
Yeah. And I think you've just articulated it perfectly. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
But yes, I think historically my life was a lot of risk taking, hence, a multiple visits to the hospital and a near loss of life at 20. And actually that was a very recentering thing for me. But yes, I think the impulsive nature of my thinking and behavior up until, I think my desire for going into the show was to feel that in working with these experts in their fields, everyone from, Luke Aikins and Camila Jabbar and with Will Trubridge and Mo Beck, amazing athletes, I was learning to unwire this impulsive nature and understand and respect that somehow we refer to these people as like adrenaline junkies and people think that, but they're actually the most present, supremely focused athletes and people I've ever sort of come across.
Yeah.
Like Jack, who was on the ground in the show, and he goes, "You're not." When Monica, Luke's wife, says, "You're afraid," and he goes, "You're not afraid. You're excited." That guy is doing the wingsuiting through the through the passage.
Right. No, he's the dude.
He's the dude.
And for people that don't know, Luke Aiken, I mean, he's the GOAT, right? This is the guy who jumped out of a plane at, what was it, like 25,000 feet without a parachute and landed in that net. You know, it's like bananas.
It's like, who does that?
Right.
Who even thinks of doing that?
But he's great because he's so casual about the whole thing. And throughout the show or that episode, he's just throwing so much information at you so quickly. And there's a couple shots of you, like you have this sort of ghost pallor, like, can I process all this? Like, I don't know if I could take it. Like, it's life or death stuff too. And he's like, do this, you'll be great. It's fine. Like, he's pretty. Mo with the climbing, she was the only one who was like, listen, dude, like, if you don't get this right, like, it's
you're dead.
You're dead.
You could die.
Like, she's giving you the truth. And Luke was just kind of making it like, this is all fun and games.
Right.
Both of them incredibly prepared and methodical.
And then I'd walk to the plane with Jack occasionally, and he'd be like, "Yeah, Bob." You know, he'd give me the few. So like, and Monica as well, by the way, who's Luke's other half, who happened to be training me as well for the skydiving aspect, who was amazing. There was like, it was the trifecta with all of them.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right about Luke. You've nailed that, and he is wonderful. And I couldn't have done it without him. But there was aspects of like Monica and Jack both all tag teaming me in different ways with just a little word here or there. It was the trifecta that got me out the plane, quite frankly. Yeah.
Right. And the point being, like, we see these clips on Instagram. We were just talking about the wingsuit guy who like wingsuited into a flying plane. Like, you see that and it's just insane. And you can't help but think these people are on some kind of death mission.
Right.
But their whole lives are devoted to the precision of this art and this sport that they're exploring.
Yes.
And you have to understand that. And like, your journey towards like appreciating the methodic way in which they've organized their entire lives in order to do this one thing is an antidote to the impulsivity that led you to fall off a 3-story building and, you know, these other kind of adventures that have landed you in the ER probably more times than you wish to recall.
Probably.
Yeah. We've had Alex Honnold in here a couple times, and, you know, he always gets asked like about fear and his relationship with risk and what you don't understand or can't appreciate, and what Free Solo was so great at kind of elaborating on was just how precise he is and how prepared and how long it took him to get to that place. And certainly it's still this unreal risk that he's taking, but his relationship to fear and risk is different because he knew every nook and crag of that entire wall and anticipated everything that he could. I mean, there's certainly variables outside of your control. But he was as prepared as one could possibly be on planet Earth, matched with an unreal, you know, talent and level of preparation.
Yeah.
And that's what doesn't get seen or appreciated.
That's what you don't understand. I kind of pointed that out in the press for the show. I was like, there's a 15-second clip that you see on any social media and people think, oh, I'll just try that. Yeah. Bye, see you later. Nice life. You know, come back next time. Let's try again. The dedication is insane, and the focus and the commitment. So people say, "Are you going to do it again?" I'm like, I can't. It's a lifestyle choice, you know. Climbing, like finding a climbing buddy, finding a team of people that you would want to go and do that with, and then, you know, scheduling's or, you know, free diving. Like, I went a couple of times after, and just on my own, I took my friends when we were on vacation, and, you know, I went down to maybe 15, 20 meters, which was fine for me. But you know, it's not something, you know, anything can kind of go wrong. Do you know what I mean? You need somebody watching you, and there's nothing light or casual about anything that you do in these sports. Certainly with skydiving, you know, it's great to get my A license. I can just jump I could go jump right now, you know, that's awesome. But like wingsuiting, you know, I may be the first person to have jumped on 25 jumps in a wingsuit. You know, there
is an insanity to that. You know, that was
going up in the plane was crazy.
The expedited schedule that you're on for all three of these disciplines is borderline reckless. You know, I mean, it really is. And I think for me, like watching the show, the thing that was most confronting.
I'm borderline reckless. By the way.
We're going to get into it.
Okay. Fine.
You're feeling vulnerable. I'm going to exploit that. The thing that was most confronting was, or that came up for me in watching it, was control. like I have control issues, I have trust issues, and all three of these disciplines require so much trust in other people and also in the gear.
Yes.
And when I saw you climbing, it's like, I don't trust that gear. I don't trust anything any of those people are telling me. They're way too casual about this. Like, I just could not imagine putting I've done some extreme things in a whole different, realm.
Yeah.
But in this context, I had a real hard time. Like, I got queasy watching you climb. And I was I was like, I don't even understand how these ropes work. Like, is that really going to help if he falls and all of that?
And I'm hanging on a nut. It's literally a nut, by the way. It's like there's a small piece. It's like a metal ball, kind of that with a loop on it, and then you kind of put that into a crab. It's pull it, and you're like, oh, okay, that holds. Okay, boom. Okay, I'm off. Off we go.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, listen. There's obviously in anything you do, you could cross the road and have that accident, but there was also taking responsibility for Mo's life.
Mm-hmm.
That was massive. Really, really, really added a dimension that I hadn't expected. Because my life is one thing, right? But like, if I didn't get, and there is a movement and a physicality that years of muscle memory will teach you to do comfortably. But as she pointed out, like, people will have climbed for 2 years before they attempt ancient art, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, not that experienced. So it was the muscle memory, and I was like, am I going to be able to get this right? These knots, have I done? And there was a couple of occasions.
It's complicated. There's a lot to remember, and the knots are. Yeah, I'm watching that. I was like, I don't understand how any of this works.
Yeah.
But I think I'm trying to understand like what the takeaways are. Like, what is the metaphor for life in here? And I think there's something about the tension between, willfulness. In other words, like the preparation, like what you can control, what Orlando can control. Like, I can do all the preparation, I can comport myself, I can be present, while also having to embrace like a deep level of trust and surrender. So it's like self-reliance, but also this like letting go that I think is instructive in terms of like, as like a rule book for life. Like, how do you find the balance between those two things? Because all things, whether you have a goal that you're pursuing or you're preparing for a role in a movie or on stage, you do the preparation, you control the controllables, and then there's like a letting go and like an allowing, right? Like, what is going to happen is going to happen. And for me to execute on this goal, I have to kind of let go of all of that and just be as present as I possibly can.
Yeah, that's right. And all three disciplines required a different kind of preparation and focus and type of letting go, if you like. For example, dive was like, I was so possibly more scared in dive than anything else because I wondered if I would come back up. I was like, am I just going to keep going? Because I love it.
That's the one discipline where you can't push the edge because you still have to get up. And even in a competition context, the best, when they rise to the surface and break the surface, they still have that little routine that they have to do. They have to recite their name or whatever it is. They can't just pass out as they come to the top or they get disqualified. So you have to know how to cut the cord before.
The edge is right there. Could be 2 feet from the top. That's the edge. It's not the bottom. The bottom is halfway. Mm-hmm. And you've dropped all that way down, And Will had an attempt at like 90 meters, which should have been quite, well, who knows what's doable, but he'd had an attempt and had a blackout near the surface like a couple of days before I was there. And I was like, wait, what? And historically, we were saying what we were touching on is my edge. What was my edge? Like impulsivity meant I had so many accidents because I don't know boundaries. I don't know my edges. So this was what the show was teaching me. So the reason I was so scared with diving was I just didn't know if not knowing my edge, if I would come back up from that and not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as Camila had pointed out, when you train for this, people will go to 80 meters and then they'll go to 81 meters and 82. They won't go from 80 to 20 to, 80 to 85. It's like, it's incremental, it's tiny increments, and it's a huge level of training. And I was doing this in 4 days, 5
Right.
days.
But you
5 days.
hit 37 meters?
Yeah.
That's pretty good, dude.
Yeah, I joined the 100-foot club.
Yeah. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I've flirted with free diving. I did a 1-day thing. I was in Malta.
Yeah.
In Gozo.
Oh, yeah.
You did Troy there, right?
Yeah,
Wasn't
yeah,
Troy there?
we did do Troy there, yeah.
And there was a guy there. He's like a 4-time world champion. And so I spent the day with him and I did a lot of those breathwork exercises that you see in the show.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty good at that. I have a swimming background.
Yeah.
But when we got to the water, I just couldn't figure out how to, depressurize my head. Like the pressure, I couldn't clear it.
Yeah.
And so I could only go, like the breath was fine. It was like, what do you call that when you're trying to like,
Equalizing.
Equalizing. I couldn't equalize.
Yeah.
And you ended up like injuring your ear, like by blowing too hard
I think
or
I
whatever.
pushed too hard,
Yeah.
and that was like really confronting with, okay, this is my body, and my body will not. There's a gate that's being held. There's a boundary being put in place by my body, which historically I've never.
Well, your body is saying like, not so fast, buddy. Like
not
this.
Today,
this is a longer road.
Yeah. I like to think the universe, but my body too. Yeah. I mean, speaking of breath work that you did when I did the death pet table.
Yeah.
That was next level.
That took you to a different place.
That was crazy.
You traveled, dude, because it suddenly there was like this surge of emotion that came over you.
I was like, wait, what? I literally was like, I don't know what I just went into, but it was life and death related, and I was like, and I keep thinking, well, why didn't I stop? The funny thing is, like my buddy was like, well, why did you keep doing it? Because I'm like, I won't stop.
Yeah.
That's part of what I had to.
But where does that come from? Like, where does that default setting, how did that get installed? Where does the impulsivity derive from? Like, what happened? What happened when you were a kid that like formed you in that way?
So from 0 to 7 is when we get imprinted, probably quite extremely, right? So my mother is amazing. My mother is one of the greatest opportunities and for my growth, and loves me like crazy, but is also like, was in boarding school at the age of 4 in India, in England, when her parents lived in India. So that's kind of a unique situation in terms of like, if you imagine like what her understanding of nurture would be, right? So I'll give you a couple of quick stories, which, I will preface with, my mother is remarkable and has given me life, and this is why I feel so blessed, right? And all of this, and thank you, I'm grateful. And my next door neighbors were Irish family, the McAvoys, and I remember the mother saying, "Jesus Christ, Roland, I used to see you crawling over the rockery when you were an infant, and thinking that woman's going to kill that child," because that was my life. And before the age of 4, I was in and out of hospital. I think. And my mum has said to me, which she probably like regrets now in some ways, but I think it's sort of interesting that actually they said, "Do you love your son?" Because if he's back in hospital again, we're going to have to think about what's going on, because I fell out of a tree and broke my arm. I think she was picking wood up in the garden, and my head was banging against this aluminium frame that she was carrying me on her back with. So I cracked my skull. I fell off a stool and cracked my skull. I mean, this is before I'm conscious enough. So right. So if you think like, and then when I broke my back at 20, I went to see the school therapist because it was a near-death experience that had profoundly, impacted my life and thinking in ways that I probably, like I'm like a can-do guy. I'm like I can push through anything, because my mom used to give me, "You can do it." That's what my mom gave me. So "You can do it," and I'm like, "I'll do it." You know what I mean? So I had that attitude of everything. But when I had this therapy session, it was like, "So have you been injured before?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I went through the list, which is like on both hands.
Yeah.
You can add it up. And she was like, "So there's a pattern, we could say." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I suppose there's a pattern." And it was so, it was through that process of counseling at the school and realizing that I'd had a pattern of every couple of years nearly like breaking or doing something that was very, that led to me being in hospital or close, that I was like, oh, is this attention? What am I looking for here?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that I've not been getting, right? What is it that's missing? And so in a way, is the show all about one big attention? It was like, is my whole life like one giant scream for attention from my mother?
Right.
But like, I know, through the years of therapy and the years of different ways of thinking that, yeah, of course, on one level, but like, I think there are so many, levels to all of this thinking. But I think, what is the takeaway for somebody who's going to watch this, who's maybe had all of their own stuff, right? Because we're all like on this journey, right? We're all, I believe, interconnected and having this experience, and we're little satellites going around. We're little, if you broke us all our cells down, wouldn't we be about the same as a galaxy anyway, right? So I see us as all little galaxies running in and out of each other, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. I just was like, well, maybe anything I do here, pushing my edge, will be something where somebody goes, well, I ain't doing that. That's crazy. Okay, don't jump out of a plane. I'm not suggesting you do that. But what is that edge for you? Find that edge and do that so that maybe you can come back to center. I'm not saying live in that space. And I'm also not suggesting that I wasn't blessed enough to have amazing teachers, as we've just said, help guide me through it. But I do like the idea of taking myself out of my comfort zone. And like, that's kind of why I'm sitting here, honestly, because in a way, it's the last thing I want to do is be like being vulnerable on a camera. And that's why I haven't done podcasts.
You're new to podcasting.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you're here right now. I'm going to push you out to the edge of your comfort zone because there's always growth there, dude.
Bro.
You are a seeker. Let's seek together.
Okay.
What are we going to discover?
But you've got a lot more interesting people who've been seeking a lot more interesting subjects on this.
I think to your point of we all are imprinted on some level at a very young age based upon how we were parented and how we kind of just came in genetically into the world. I mean, there's truth in that. Yeah. And, I share that desire for approval, and then also like never quite feeling like I was getting it, which fuels more and more and more and more extreme behavior. That
then
led
you feel
me
like the imposter.
Well, oh yeah,
they're gonna. Like Rumi says,
Orlando,
right?
they're gonna come in here and drag me out of here before this podcast is over. Exactly. Trust me.
They'll get me first. Don't worry.
People.
I'll say, take me.
People pleasing. Being a chameleon. Who do you need me to be? That I had a whole kind of dark exploration in substances.
Oh yeah.
Anything to check out. Extreme sports can be a version of that. But I do think that you've leveraged this for growth. So where did the impulse to be on this, journey towards growth come from? Like, it's one thing to be an extreme sport athlete and be attracted to that, like a moth to the flame. It's another thing to say, I want to grow, I want to evolve, and I'm game for anything that's going to, help me expand. Like, I feel like that is a default setting that you have.
Yeah. I think that started long time before the show, though, right?
Sure. I mean, this dates back. I don't know when that began. Do you have a sense of when that kind of came online for you and why?
Probably surprisingly young. I think I wanted to be not where I was in some ways, or I wanted to be like, I had this. It's so funny. Like, I grew up with a lot of watching a lot of American style TV and shows and stuff like that in England. And I think like there's aspects of, my childhood that would challenge me in different ways. And I had a very happy childhood in many ways, like a really solid middle class upbringing, really beautiful home, but there's something that meant I wanted to be away. I wanted to get somewhere else. Like, I remember envisioning I was in the gym at school, and I imagined myself flying in as Superman to grab my girl, and then this girl who I had a crush on when I was 9 years old, and I was going to fly out with her or something. So I had all these, I think in some weird ways, because of the backstory of my father, which is very complex and has been talked about a lot, but I didn't, I had this idea of who my father was because my mother had told me that my father was Harry Bloom. And then I
Who was
found
a
out-
civil rights activist in South Africa, like an anti-apartheid activist, right?
Yeah, like a hero in my mind.
Yeah.
He'd written a book called Transvaal Episode, and who was in prison with Nelson Mandela, who was like this hero in my mind. So until I'm 13, I've like got this heroic view of a man that like my mum has given me a little bit, but my imagination is just, I have no idea who that guy was. You know what I mean?
Right.
In
And
truth.
he
Except I have
passed
one
away when you
memory
were
of him
4,
when I was
right?
4.
And he was gone even before that, right?
Yeah.
So you never really had a
He was there,
relationship
he was
with
present, but he was in the house. But I have one memory of that. So I think I had this idea. My imagination had created an idea of a man, right, that was based on the framework of who Harry Bloom was, and then my father, who was in my life, but I didn't know he was my father. He was my legal guardian, who is like I have just a wonderful relationship with. Still and continue to. He was in business with my mother, but he was also he was younger. He was 10 years younger than my mother, and he was in an office in the bottom of the house, like trying to build this business out, a foreign language school. And I'd sort of see him at weekends, and we'd go and like walk and build like huts, and then I'd, stay with him for weekends. But I think he was struggling as well. His own masculinity was struggling at that time with trying to build a business, not being with my mom probably, or being confused about whatever that was. He was 24 when he,
right. And it was a consensual thing that he would father you. Like it's a complicated, weird thing,
I
right?
have no straight answer for you on any of all that.
You still don't know the answer.
There's my mother's story, and then there's his story. There's a lot of ambiguity.
Yeah, ambiguity. But that created a lot of uncertainty, I would imagine, being a young kid trying to figure out, where you feel safe.
Yeah.
But also, like this incredibly eclectic household. I mean, it sounds like your mom was really supportive, and she
I
was
had
able to see that you had this imagination and this artistic sensibility, and she really fueled that. Like she really supported
pottery
that.
She was like fully throwing everything.
Yeah.
My mom was the one who got me to do Bible classes, Bible reading, and there was the Kent Festival, which was a Canterbury festival where you do poetry, prose, Bible reading, and I did all of them, and I won all the competitions, and I was a kid, and like basically got the cups, and I was like, yay, I did it, Mommy, I did it. She was the one who was like, drove me to teachers who were like, this is how you recite this poem. This is how you say this piece of text. This is how you read this piece from the Bible. And, then you would like sit in front of like teachers, or not teachers, but judges, and then you'd see if you came first, second, or third,
Yeah, and you were naturally good at that, or you got good at it pretty quick.
I was probably good, and I also worked at it, and it was something that kind of gave me, that was a really strong foundation. Although I will say that I had terror when it came to stage fright. And if you, like, just before this, I've been wrecked coming down here in the car, bro. You know what I mean? I've been like, oh, God. And if I have to say anything publicly, which is random because here we are without a script, I'm like, I'm just going to put my foot in my mouth. Oh, God.
You
my
still
humor
feel that
doesn't
way.
work.
You're very charming, though. You should, it's not rational that you feel that way. Well,
that. There you go. There's nothing very rational about who I am, but I live it, But it's like, I don't know that, I think that's part of what it is as well, was looking at like the emotion versus the rationale, right? Mm-hmm. And then if you think, I can unpack all of this, but it's not really a therapy session, is it? I don't know.
Maybe it is.
But it's like,
but I think there's instructive aspects to this story. There's a lot that's instructive about this. I mean, I think,
is it helpful?
I think understanding that your mom was so supportive and saw this in you and realized like this is what needs to be nurtured in this kid, and to see you kind of thrive and ascend in that world, so much so that you end up leaving school or leaving home at like 16, right? So you're in London, you're just a kid.
Well, I went to boarding school at 11, actually.
Oh, 11. So you were out of the house. You were like
11. I was.
You were having to take care of yourself at a very early age. Yeah. So I mean that seems to me to be related to the question of like what instigated this desire to be on this growth journey. Like you had to figure things out for yourself.
Yeah, that's true. I definitely I've been on a long journey of self-discovery.
Yeah. We're brought to you today by ROKA. Glasses are not something you normally think about as a piece of performance gear, which, when you think about it, is kind of insane because you can't perform at your best if you can't see. Well, the geniuses at ROKA basically rebuilt eyewear from the ground up. No matter how active you are or how much you sweat, these things never slip or fall off your face. They're super durable, they look awesome, and they've got tons of super classy modern styles to choose from. I've been rocking ROKAs for about 4 years at this point. I love them. I'm a big fan of the Hamilton style in gloss black. That's this frame right here, as well as clear, or I guess they call them vintage on the website. And if you want to try them out for yourself, you can do that right now and unlock 20% off your order with the code RICHROLL at ROKA.com. Or you can click the link in the description below. Okay, back to the show. As much as we try to learn about ourselves through peak experiences and extreme sports and the like, the hardest lift and the most courageous act is to understand that the real answers that you're searching for are really not going to be found there, and they're going to be found only by going inward. And none of us really want to do that. That's a very challenging, inconvenient thing to do.
It's kind of lonely. It can be quite lonely, that process.
Because it's on you and you alone.
Yeah.
And there's nobody telling you that you have to. I know I listened to your podcast with Trevor Noah, and you said something along the lines of how Katie, your partner, is sort of demanding your evolution, or not. That's the wrong word, demanding, but like is pushing you, right, to always be growing. And that's Julie's here. Like that's something that I think we share, and that is a fantastic thing to have in your life. Somebody who sees you for who you are, who holds a vision for the better, aspects of you, and can see how you can be better, and is not willing to just accept you for who you are, but is expecting you to grow in lockstep. But it also makes it difficult. It's hard. Who wants to do that? It's a choice, right? Nobody's saying you have to do that. You have a great life, and so it would be easy to coast, right? It's all good. I don't have to do all this other shit.
Yeah, no, I can't do that. The balance of life is, for me, in putting myself in other positions. One of the things that I'm most grateful for really is the opportunity to work with UNICEF, which I've had for 20 years now. And I think the first thing I said to UNICEF basically was, I said, I'll go anywhere nobody else wants to go. I was like, you can send me there. If they don't like, the worst places, I'll go there. Because I'm like, that's where, and so, like I was in Liberia, the tail end of Ebola, and that was so terrifyingly shocking. And I was in, pretty unique places with them and I remember when I went to Nepal for my first trip, and it was like a soft touch almost. It was like, here, do this. I even went to a tiger sanctuary or something, you know what I mean? It was like introducing him to this. And
right,
I remember
you'd want to go to Nepal anyway.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting at the top of this village, and I was like, wow, this is like $1 billion view, by the way. Like it's like you just look, and I'm all around me are these like, is a community that was really struggling because they didn't have a tap, right? So the kids, the daughter, this young woman was walking 2.5 miles up a hill to collect water that was contaminated, right? And this is 20 years ago. So they were putting water in plastic bottles on a corrugated iron roof, so the sun would go through, it would kill but then they're getting all the plastic too, right? Which we know now. But like that was, at least they weren't getting sick from drinking the water. And and it was basically the women in this community who had done a map, and they were like, so this is the little lake, and this is the woods, and this is the houses and the huts that people live in, and this is the one, they don't have an outhouse, so we're trying to get them to put a little outhouse so that they're not defecating anywhere, because basically kids are dying from, the disease of, diarrhea. It's like, we'll kill a kid under 2, and like this, you know what I mean? And in these communities, and I was like sitting there thinking, what do I have to do? What do I have to do to be able to have an impact in a big way for this community, for the things that go there? And I think that part of doing the show is, and all of this, is that sometimes I just don't want to keep pushing myself out there because it's just a lot. Because I think when you're trying to do something good in the world, you just get swung with the negative. You know what I mean? Like the backlash is just. Do you ever feel that when you're trying to message really good things, you get the yin and yang of life.
Yeah,
right?
it just
so it's
comes,
like I'm
comes
super
with it.
aware of that.
Not nearly on the level that someone like you must have to experience.
I'm super aware of
that.
it, so I'm like, I'm going to do this now, and I'm going to get this then. You know what I mean? It's like, so I like literally have to go, okay, I'm going to do this podcast now and try and put a lot of positivity and messaging out. And I guarantee you I'm going to get a slap on the back from the universe at some point. But you know what I mean? It's like a setup. It's literally like, it is a setup. I feel like sometimes I'm like, is it a setup? Is this a simulation? Are we like literally, is that, you know what I mean? But my Buddhist practice would have me go, that works too, whatever. It just pour more love on it.
Yeah. Well, what it demands of you is to really look at your relationship with the opinions of other people, right? And this is like a huge thing for me.
Okay, you can take that out now. You can take that out
yeah.
right now.
But you can't be you without having to contend with that, though, you know? But I'm sure there's an emotional,
Still,
cost to that.
That's the one.
Yeah.
That is the one for everyone, right? That's the one.
So
Other
you have a
people's
choice. You
opinions.
can be a shut-in and do nothing, or you can do what it is that you're here to do and share your gifts and try to do good and let the chips fall as they may.
That's right.
Yeah.
Give less fuck.
But it's got to be tough. I mean, you're known all around the world, and your partner is known all around the world. Like this is like a Wonder Twins powers activate situation where I'm sure you guys can't go anywhere. Like, how do you?
We do.
You do.
Yeah, we do. We're very good at that. She's very good at that. She was always good at that. Yeah, we get on with it. This isn't 2006. I remember what it felt like to be Justin Bieber with Hailey Bieber. I remember what that felt like. It's a different time, and thankfully, gratefully, and we're good at it. She's always been good at it, and I've always been. I got good at hiding, which wasn't good, actually.
Like hiding from the world, or hiding from yourself,
like
from
just I just hiding so that I didn't. I think it played out in a lot of ways, but there was a period where I just couldn't go anywhere. So I used to ride motorbikes to get from A to B. I wore a baseball hat, or I had a hat. I had 100 different hats.
Peak Lord of the Rings time.
It was not. It was pirates, really.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings. I was in a blonde wig. It was hard to, but it was pirates, through pirates and all this stuff. 2006 on, my mum had this article. I always talk about this because it must play into my ego. My ego loves this story, so I'll tell you. But my mum kept this article from the New York Times saying that I was the most, she was like, darling, you're the most Googled person on the planet for 4 years now. It's in the article, and it was like,
that's a lot.
Above Britney Spears.
That's a lot, though.
So
how do you even mentally process that?
I was freaked out. She was like, we've got to do something with the internet to do, I'm like, freaked out. No, we're not doing anything. I'm hiding. I'm going under this shell, and I'm just going to come out and be on set, and I'll do my best to, No, that was a lot.
It all happened really fast. I mean, you booked and landed Lord of the Rings like right as you graduated from drama school, right? You've done other things. It wasn't your first thing necessarily.
I mean, I moved to London when I was 16, and I hustled like a crazy person to get anything. Yeah, it was a lot.
And you were what, 20?
20, yeah.
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 That's pretty, that would be enough to derail anybody.
Yeah.
Drugs and alcohol was never a thing for you, though, was it? You never.
Yeah, it was.
I did.
I did.
You didn't get into big trouble with that or anything, did you?
I had more. I think because I was on my own at 16 in London. I had more. I did a lot of drugs, and had a lot of alcohol, but I had that Buddhist practice, and I remember that David, who had shakabuku me, which means introduced me, had sort of. I'd said to him, I was like, I even remember saying like, so you're saying I could like chant for like more of this, like, more of that and more of this? And I was like really into this girl and whatever it may be. And he was like, yeah, do all that, chant for all of that.
Chant like, for your self-serving needs and desires.
For sure. Because there's this phrase which earthly desires lead to enlightenment. So the earthly desires of me seeking these things, these negative parts, I would wake up in these crazy situations where I shouldn't be at that age. And I'd be like, I shouldn't be here. Okay, where should you be? Not here, for starters. Okay, well, let's step out of this. And then it was like, David also, shared the teachings of Daisaku Ikeda, who's my mentor. So I would be reading little bits, and I'd be like, words like integrity or wisdom or courage or compassion were starting to filter through which I was finding through reading. Nobody had told me to. So it was like a part of this the self-education tool thing. But with my probably undiagnosed ADHD and dyslexia and like a lot of things, I was like, everything had to be experienced to be understood. So, it's been a very, very interesting learning curve over the years. And I think that I was disciplined enough, self-regulated enough to know that I didn't want to live in Canterbury. I'm born in 1977. So there was a period where, there was a thing of like, go out and be your own, there was a statue, was this, go out and be your own hero and build your own, all of that. So I think, in a way it was like, I wanted to build and I had a taste for really good things and I could mix with people from the estate, and the estate means like an area where it was like, low-income housing or whatever,
like
some public housing situation. But and then I'd have like a boarding school that I was going to where there were like kids who were like, and I just kind of, I don't know, I never felt like I was one thing or another. You know what I mean?
I get it. I mean, this idea, you're not going to go home to Canterbury. You're going to continue to pursue this thing, but you're touching up against like some crazy experiences, and well enough, like, hey, that flame's too hot. But I've got to figure out a way. I've got to figure out a way of living for myself that's going to work.
I'm still going there.
And you have this Buddhist practice that is as philosophical as it is faith-based. Like it is this roadmap, this sort of art of living kind of philosophy.
That's right,
for
the art
life.
of living. And for me,
how did that come in? Explain how that originated for you?
So I was 16 and I was 17 probably. So I did sculpture, photography, and theater studies, knowing that I wanted to be an actor. School, knowing that I needed art and creativity from my imagination, and knowing that like education had been a real challenge up until that point, and I'd taken a ton of extra classes to get any of it, but I got all of it, but like it was hard. So, but for my sculpture exam, I was really good at just sitting and like you could just put something in front of me and I'd be like, whoa, cool. But I hadn't done a piece of drawing, and I had to have drawings to back up every piece of sculpture that I made. And I had to show the thought process that went into it. And then I had a 15-hour still life drawing exam, a 15-hour oil painting exam, along with my 15-hour sculpture exam. And my teacher sort of told me this like 3 months before the exams and all that. And I was like, wait, what?
It's like an endurance event.
And I was like, my brain just like, because I was hanging, like I needed those grades for drama school, whatever. I just like, So my best friend, Mark, who's like my brother, who I've known since I'm 13, has, and is like literally, saved my life in many ways, was like the reason I moved to London, helped me get to London and stuff. Introduced me yet again, coming in to save my life, to this artist, David. And David lived in the hometown next to me. And every weekend leading up to the exams, I went down to Folkestone and he would set me up in the easel and he'd go, here, just look at yourself in the mirror and paint this and use these. Okay. And I'd hear him in the other room and he'd go, so one day I go, what are you doing? He goes, I'm chanting that you're going to be really successful in your life and that you're going to have this like great, you're going to do amazing in your exams, all that. I go, oh, cool. Well, will it help? He goes, yeah. I go, cool. So I get down on my knees and I'm just like, I start chanting, right? And then I'm chanting the moon. I'm in this like exam for sculpture and there's a whale bone and a grapefruit or something I'm painting. And I'm like, I'd be looking at it. I go to the bathroom, come back out, and I'm like, okay, fine, carry on. Anyway, got the highest exam, got the highest grade I believe they asked to keep my work because I think they were like, this is the grade that we want following year has to hit. So we'd like to keep your work in the highest grade in the country kind of thing. I got whatever. I was like, oh, well, this is working out.
Yeah, and you're like, this chanting.
What else did I jump for?
That was enough proof for you to look more deeply into whatever this tradition is.
Earthly desires leads to enlightenment was a big one for me. Because I think in my young life, in my 20s, I achieved more in my 20s than I thought I ever would. And I realized that most of those things that I thought was going to make me happy didn't make me happy. You know, like making a lot of money, making more money than I probably ever would need to have made, you know, just meant I wanted to need to make more money to keep up the things that I was buying that I didn't need, that I was, you know, there's a whole slew of it, you know. It's like we're all just over consuming, right? We all just think we need that. And I'm still doing it. Trust me. Still doing it. But I'm so much more aware, but I'm like, let go, let go, let go, let go, let go, let go. And the show was just like, oh, so you need to be near death for you to understand that. And that would work if you look at the framework of like probably nearly dying many times. So it's like, so force yourself into that so that you springboard into growth for me.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. The experience of falling off the building and breaking, you know, falling out of trees and all that kind of stuff on some level, like, oh, the universe is trying to get your attention. Maybe this isn't the best way to go about things. I know what we can do. Let's give him everything he wants. And then maybe he'll discover something about himself in that process, like all the earthly desires satisfied. Now who are you?
Yeah.
Now what are you going to do?
Right.
Where are you going to find meaning?
Right.
What is purposeful about your life?
That's right.
What is your, you know, where are you calibrating your compass? You know, to have that lesson at an early age. You know, it could have, look, that experience buries a lot of people, right? But for you to be able to extract that kind of wisdom out of it to reconfigure your priorities, I think there's something inspirational about that.
Oh, thanks,
yeah.
man. Well,
To be gifted with that experience of not only you were presented with this Buddhist idea as a young person, a lot of young people would have just said, that's weird and have no interest. But there was something inside of you that was like, I'm going to move towards that. Like that seeker thing, I think that is inherent in who you are.
I actually got to meet my mentor, which is a huge deal. You were saying before we met that you met the Dalai Lama, and I've met the Dalai Lama a couple of times. Amazing human, amazing to be in his presence, right? Daisaku Ikeda was not somebody anyone could meet. Really. And it was very, like, he's a unique, he's no longer with us. He passed recently, but I was in Japan with this friend of mine from LA, this really powerful, strong Buddhist woman, Symbiat, was like, he's going to meet Sensei. I'm making this happen. So she put out a call to say I was there in a way, because I'd been there countless times actually for publicity for movies. And she got a response to say, okay, that Daisaku Ikeda was wanted to meet me. And I think there were there's a lot of amazing members in my organization across the world. And one of them is this therapist from London, friend of mine, married to Sandy Shaw, amazing guy. He was saying, I couldn't understand why he would meet you. And then I realized he must have been wanting to suss you out. He wanted to see, because I had at that time a huge following. I couldn't go anywhere following, which was not harnessed by platforms on the internet. It was just, you know, it was just out there. And I think he probably wanted to size me up. So I remember meeting him. I had to get up on stage at this rock festival and say, the environment. I was just doing something like that. You know, it was like crazy. And all these Japanese, because I had a big following there, went crazy. And then I got taken in a car and I got on a train and I went with these amazing Buddhas who just like had a sandwich for me and a bottle of water, and then were talking to me about what I was about to do, which was to meet my mentor, Daisaku Ikeda. And I was like, and I remember getting off this bus and seeing him. And I literally, kid you not, I was like, oh, I've done this before. In that moment, I was like, oh, this other lifetimes? What? That was, I've got goosebumps going through me as I remember that.
Wow.
And I got off the bus and I went over and I gave him this massive hug. And he pulled me back and he went, boom, boom.
He smacked
boom,
you?
like this. He was like, but it was like, and then he held me and looked at me and he went, because I think, first of all, culturally, you don't run up to a Japanese, you don't,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was constantly teaching. And I looked at him, and then we went on this journey through the Nagano Training Center. And I just remember we were in this golf cart, and there were people, and felt like I was on this roller coaster. Felt like I was on a flying carpet, honestly. And then, David was with me, and my best friend from the show, Chris, was there as well. I think you remember the blonde Gibbo, and my sister. And he said, I'm giving you this award. I want to give this medal to your mother. I want you to take this home to your mother. And I was like, and I was like, wow. So
what's coming up for you right now? What is
I don't
that?
know, dude. My mom, so I gave her this, I just feel very, I don't know, man. It was, I think the moment remembering that, because my mom is somebody that I'm constantly learning to evolve and grow the relationship with, a boundary that I can navigate and feel safe,
We were talking before the podcast about the experience of visiting with the Dalai Lama and his recurring message around the mother's love for the child as a pathway towards compassion and forgiveness and understanding that how we think of ourselves as individuals is an illusion. You were talking about like we're all one, we are all connected, and a vehicle or like a portal for really embracing that is being able to connect with that mother's love.
Yeah.
And there's something about him deciding that the award should go to your mother that feels related to that in the sense of it's him recognizing that like his mother's love for you, like what she nurtured in you allowed you to become the person
that's right
you are.
And I think that it's all mothers. I think that when he refers to the mother, or when you're talking to the Dalai Lama, it's the mother, all mothers. He wrote this amazing piece of dialogue, which he said to, and I'd love to. There's just the one line in it is that I would love to share briefly, because I think it's something that you might appreciate. Is he talks about a great future lies ahead of you. We will see a transformation of history from the revolution of the external environment to that of the inner self, the human revolution. It will be an age in which the action of leaders will naturally be based on the guidelines of making all mothers happy. And I don't think that, we can always understand that, the depth of that. There's this interesting time we're living in, but it's constantly, for me, it's this constant like the love relationship with my mother is such a unique thing, and it forces me to grow in such an amazing way, and it's the reason why I'm here. I remember when I was doing Lord of the Rings, I wrote this fax, because with only faxes, there's no emails. And I wrote this fax to my mum, and I just said, because I was having that was like nirvana of an experience, of a time in my life. Mm-hmm. I was the age-wise playing Legolas, this ethereal being that was like, so just like, and imbuing that, because I'm 100% committed. I'm not a method actor, but like I really try to shift my makeup when I go into a character. But I wrote this letter to my mother, and I said, I just want you to keep this fax, Mum, because I'm just so grateful for everything. All of it. Because actually, like, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be on this set with these people if whatever you had done hadn't worked. And even if you knew it or not, do you know what I mean? And all of it, because I think we're all, I don't know, like, are we all coming back lifetimes? Are there different? Do you feel like you met people who've like, oh, they've done this 1,000,000 times?
Yeah.
I feel like there are people who just go, oh, there's an ancient wisdom there.
How many times have we done this podcast together?
Right. So I'm like, but like, I would say my mother, I would say perhaps I've been here. I would say in some ways, I don't know, but like there are aspects of my mother where I'm like, wait, what? This? is the wait, and then come back to, no, okay, this is the lesson. This is the lesson. So what am I going to do with it?
But the gratitude seems like a consistent thing with you.
Has to be.
Yeah.
Has to
Does that come easy? Or do you have to work on that?
I think when you say Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, you're just basically saying, I'm grateful, I'm grateful, I'm grateful, I'm grateful, I'm grateful, I'm grateful, I'm grateful. So no, I work on it all the time. Oh. No, are you kidding me? My head is like, I mean, it's untethered.
Yeah.
You saw the show.
Yeah. Throughout the show, there's a kind of recurring motif of you chanting the mantra, and there's something funny about it too. Like there's a comic.
Good.
I mean, if anything's going to get memed out of the show, prepare yourself.
Yeah,
for that,
good.
You know what I mean?
Meme away. However, we can get the messaging out there. You know what I mean?
Listen, it would have been an easier and safer choice to just leave that part out. You know what I mean? Let's just make a show. You're jumping out of planes, you're doing all this stuff. And clearly you were like, no, this is central to what I want to say.
To my life. It's my life.
And what do you want people to take from that?
That I was always looking for a roadmap. I was confirmed in the Cathedral of Canterbury by the Archbishop of Canterbury. That is
Yeah, that's some real shit.
that's a big deal.
Yeah.
You can't not
And you
Jesus.
have like 10 names.
Yeah.
What's your full name?
Orlando Jonathan Blanchard Copeland Bloom. It's a mess.
Yeah.
It's a
you
mess.
just need like a Duke or
can't-
Lord or whatever attached to that.
You can't, so you can't knock Jesus, right? But I used to see him on the cross. I'd sing hymns and psalms in chapel every morning, and I'd be looking at him, I'd be like, oh, I feel so bad. But I didn't put you there. I'm so sorry you're there. And it was maybe through the teachings as well. And I had an amazing school chaplain, by the way, who was just like, basically love, you know, like, but for whatever reason. But I was like, I met the practice at 16 because I hadn't found a church or something, but I knew I needed a philosophy or a practice because I think I'm just inherently also quite spiritual. So everything is dialed slightly that way, whether it's journeying with medicine or whatever it may be, it's always got that element to it. But I think that, you know, I think it's just Nam Myoho Renge Kyo was my journey, my path to understanding that we are all connected. We are, you know, what you do to somebody else will come back to you, whether that be good or bad. And that unless we're all happy, none of us are happy. Not really. So I can get all of these things. We can go out and I can keep accumulating and I can have all these things. But did it make me happy? That like the process of like, yeah, of course, like when I'm driving really fast in my Porsche, I'm like, that's really fun. But I can enjoy that moment. But what makes me most happy is when I'm standing on the edge of the village that actually had a tap and that there were prayer flags and there were classrooms and they were just living like with just being able to have water, right? But like, so I don't know, like, yeah, I mean, I'm a big hippie at heart, probably. I'm like a big old
the hippie from
softy.
Canterbury, grown in the Church of England.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a mess of experiences.
Yeah, it's interesting to be raised in the church in that way and then connecting with a different faith tradition and having that resonate with you and with staying power. Like from 16 on, it wasn't a flirtation.
There've been times in my life where I haven't chanted as consistently, but the fundamental practice and that thing, and I'm always saying it, even when I'm not, if I don't sit in front of my Gohonzon every morning, but I do now more and more. And actually, through these conversations, I've realized how much I need to get my study up. So there are 3 parts of my practice, study, and sharing. And it's like, I need study so bad. Because
You're doing a lot of sharing right now.
And I need the study. And it's like, and I'm like, oh, come on, bro.
What makes this tradition different from Zen Buddhism, Tibetan, other variations of Buddhism?
For me, it's very user-friendly. It's very taking action. I do meditate, by the way. I do TM, but I find that yoga for the mind. But this is like, my eyes are open and I'm about taking action in this moment. It's very accessible. There is amazing wisdom by Daisaku Ikeda that I can get very easily, little snippets. I can go as deep as I want. If I want to study the Gosho and go deep into what, the thinking of Nichiren Daishonin was that brought this teaching to the world. I can go back to Shakyamuni. It kind of encompasses everything. And there's a mystical aspect, which is completely unfathomable, which plays into the part of my magical thinking, which is how am I even here? Mm-hmm. So for me, it's the trifecta, it's the perfect package. It's the art of living. And, I'd encourage anybody who wanted to chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Would you say it after me, will you? Will you say Nam?
Nam.
Myoho.
Myoho.
Renge.
Renge.
Kyo.
Kyo.
Now, you never have
I can't
to
say it as fast as you.
Nam,
I don't know how you...
Myoho Renge
Yeah.
Kyo. Nam Myoho
Myoho
Renge Kyo.
Kyo.
So now, I believe, and I said this to Jay, you never have to say that again, but my practice, my faith has taught me that you've just protected 7 generations in your past and 7 generations in your future. I believe that for you. So you have. And that's my faith. That sounds wild, but I believe that. Now, if you imagine, let's take that forward. This lifetime is just in preparation for the next lifetime, right? I'm an eternal Buddha. I'm going to keep coming back. Maybe that gives me a certain. It's like my cape. It's like Superman's cape. I've gone fly. I can, you know what I mean? It's like my protection. Maybe that thinking, because of my upbringing, is what helps me, right? I respect all people of faith. I do think that faith has led to some catastrophes around the world, but my parents-in-law, Katie's parents, pastors, and always praying. And when they pray for me, I feel that, and I respect it, and I feel it deeply, and I know that they're protecting me.
That's beautiful, man.
But I know also that for me, access to Nam Myoho Renge Kyo is what works. So, check out the SGI.org.
Yeah.
And they don't want money from you. That was the crazy thing. I never got asked for a cent. I've never been asked for a cent. Not 1 cent.
And look at your blessed life.
Yeah, I've given a lot, but only because I chose to, not because nobody's ever asked me for a thing.
It's so interesting.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. I always think there's a really interesting tell there, isn't it? You can tell something's whether they want money from you. But
when you recite the mantra, though, you do it. Is there something about the speed, the cadence, because you do it so quickly, and it takes on this tone? It's sort of like oming, in that tradition, like the sound of the universe. There's a throat singing kind of vibe that you get.
I also recite, by the way, 2 chapters from the Lotus Sutra as part of my practice. It's very Japanese because Nichiren Daishonin took it through the Silk Pass, landed in Japan, right? And this is there's a very Japanese aspect to it when I love Japanese culture. I don't know how much time you spent in Japan, but love Japanese culture. And so I recite 2 chapters, the lifespan and the expedience mean chapter as well. And it's like Myoho Renge Kyo Hoban Pondai Nini Jise Sanju Samai Anjo Niki Go Shari Shobuchi Ejin Murio Goji Yemon, and it goes on for 5 minutes. And that's in me now because I've been reciting that. But it comes very naturally. And then, and I chant to a scroll, and I have a little incense and light a candle, and there's a little bit of greenery and some fruit. It's very beautiful, and it just is centering. That's it.
Is this something that your partner and your kids practice as well? How does that go down?
That's a good question.
in the household?
So my partner definitely has had a history of, being raised in a church. And so she has her own relationship with all things that are of the world and not, right? And it's really, really beautiful, actually, and interesting. But she fully is on board and respects and wants me and loves and appreciates me doing that, and will say Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, when she really is in moments, she'll say that. And Daisy, I say every morning and night, and she says Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Oh, whenever I hang up the phone, I'm if I'm away, FaceTiming. And Flynn had the same every Nam Myoho, but the way that I was shakabuku by David, again, being introduced, he was he was very aware. He didn't force anything. And I feel that's something that's really important. People they need to make it their own, right? It needs to be your own. You need to feel good about it. You need to want something, or there has to be a reason for it. And it definitely resonated for me. So that's why I'm doing it. And maybe it doesn't for everyone, but then, whatever works for you, right?
Yeah. So when you're doing, when you're
part.
doing your TM and you're reciting your mantra, do you feel like you're cheating?
Yeah,
you feel like you're cheating on your first true love?
Oh my God, that's such a good question. I literally came down here this morning and I told you my brain was like going, why am I doing a rich roll-up? What have I got to say? What is there? There's nothing. This is insane. What are you doing? You're like, you just dribbled on with Jay. I mean, what were you trying? Like, those are the stories that the intruder in my head would have me believe, right? So I'm literally meditating for 10 minutes. I'm like, chant, bro. like it's the 20-minute timer's on my phone and I stopped and then I'm like.
When you're meditating, you feel like you should be chanting. When you're chanting, you're thinking, actually, I should meditate.
No. So TM is not a religious practice.
Right.
And I find it to be really helpful to me. Just like, if I'm on set and I'm just like, my body and brain are tapped because I'm like redlining because that's how I am.
Yeah.
Then I just go, and it's like, it just shuts everything off. But when I wake up in the morning and I chant, it's like starting the engine. And when I go to bed and I chant, it's like saying thank you. And it's just saying thank you. I'm just saying thank you all the time, basically.
Those two practices are compatible
for me.
Each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think they are, yeah. And by the way, don't you think every religious practice, every spiritual thinker comes at a certain point, it's all like...
Sure.
Don't you think
we get caught up in the trappings. I mean, you can get caught up in the words and the mantras and the costuming of all of these things and lose sight of the core truths. You know? And I think that's really at the root of all the, strife that we have when it comes to the institutionalization of these various strains of thought, which at their core, are all beautiful in their essence, I think, and share more than they, disagree on.
Yes, agreed.
I bet there's a lot of you out there who've been pondering that new website you'd like to have, but just haven't pulled the trigger. Well, with Squarespace, it's easy and affordable to build your own beautiful designer website. So Squarespace has been a long-time partner of the show, and what I love about it is it just demystifies everything about what's required to make a website. You don't need to be a designer. You don't need to know how to code. Everything is right at your fingertips. They make it super simple, and they've got these unbelievably beautiful templates to choose from that are oriented around whatever your needs may be. Whether you need a simple landing page or a full-on online shop, Snap, Crackle, Pop, Squarespace has the tools you need to launch your business, including e-commerce templates and inventory management. So make that website. You got it. Click the link in the description below for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use offer code RICHROLL to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. So what is it that is the thing that you're working on now? Like where's the piece where you don't really want to grow, but you need to? Like where's that edge with the inside job work?
Like study, I think. It's always study. It's always for me is like just, going back to, I think I can always learn more, reading, studying, like not getting distracted by other things or choosing, like navigating time and, it's pretty much like constantly trying to come back to studying and learning and educating and myself so that I'm just like keep being a more fully formed human.
And so what does that look like now? Like what are you reading? What are you looking at? What are you exploring?
It's kind of like Edge was an opportunity for me to physically push that boundary and go out. I think a lot of stuff that I've been reading of late has been around relationships. So just because I didn't have a frame of reference for a relationship, so I've done a lot of stuff around relationships. Been reading a lot around
You did Hoffman too.
Hoffman was a great reveal.
Yeah.
Possibly one of the greatest reveals, yeah.
What did it show you?
That, if I leash in my intellect, which is that voice in my head that can be super judgmental and negative, and or is the one that is able to analyze a paper and take things on, which is super necessary. And if I leash in my inner child, which is the one that is like, I just need a hug, or is the one that is like, let's play, is the creative genius in me. And if I pay attention to my body so that my body is functioning and I'm taking care of it, then my highest self, the best version of myself, will be the operating programming that I'm working from. And that's the best version, right? Because there are 5 things that, I was once told there are 5 things, that just to keep check of, which is like, and I'll probably forget them now, but like, don't do drugs, right? Alcohol, drugs, whatever. Don't, like, spiritual practice, physicality, movement, relationship. This is in no particular order, by the way. Relationship and I'm not going to remember the last one, sorry. But I have these touchstones that I keep. But for me, it's like I'm constantly trying to navigate the inside of my brain and focus. So I'm like drawing things down. So it's constantly condensing down to presence.
So that formula for accessing your higher self, the
I'm really
intellect,
frustrated that I can't remember the fifth one right now.
It's probably something around service or work,
service,
right?
Yeah, exactly. Work, career. It was
work,
right,
career,
yeah.
service.
It was good.
But this
They're
idea,
all the same. Everyone's
what's the flip side of that? Way to access the best version of yourself. Like what comes up when you're not conscious of taking care of yourself in that way? That maybe Hoffman, kind of put a mirror up to.
Frustration. You mean the negative?
Yeah.
The thing that I'm...
Yeah. The inverse.
Like, the inverse is, it's like frustration, I would say, from a very early age. Because sometimes I feel like if there's a window to my brain, I have to move the window. Other people have just like, they can just go, but I'm like going, and that's really frustrating.
Yeah.
But what's the upside to that? In moving it, I'm seeing other things. You know what I mean? I'm always trying to find the positive, but.
And so where does the fear land for you now?
I think it was like the show was about me and my practice about taking responsibility, right? Like if I get so good at taking responsibility for myself, then you can start taking responsibility for all those other people and people that just don't have the possibility, don't have either, they just don't have this lifetime, in this lifetime, haven't been given the opportunities, right? And so I think responsibility, being taught to be super capable, being physically, and then trusting that and just letting go and just, not caring, less caring about what other people think and say and just like, let's go, bro.
And so the fear is around what would happen if you really did let go in that way?
Yeah, the fear is like, it's like they're just, it's the usual things. It's all the usual slings and arrows, right? People are going to throw at you for this, that, and the other. Trip you up along the way because you haven't articulated that correctly. You haven't, you've rambled on, you haven't, I think there's nuance, right? The amazing thing about a podcast, the amazing thing about sitting here is that there's subtlety and nuance to this level of communication. And if somebody actually bothers to take the time and watch this whole thing, they'll see the way your heart and communication and intellect has probed questions in me to allow my heart, intellect, and to do a dance, right? And hopefully they'll appreciate where my heart is coming from, right? But when things are put in writing, they get lost.
Yeah.
So often things get put in writing and the nuance and subtlety of what's being communicated at the time, I can say with all my hand and my heart, I just want this to be a loving, and it'll be taken out of context and he said this about her.
Right.
He did this, it's like just so that you can, and that's what I mean about stepping out of your comfort zone, being brave, because that's what's going to come around.
And that's a control, that's a control thing. You can't control that.
No.
You can control what comes out of your mouth.
And it doesn't matter.
But you can't control how people are going to interpret that or what they're going to do with that.
And I think the other thing is that it doesn't matter. And actually, if somebody had said to me, if I'd had anyone to say to me, bro, you're good, early on, when I was in some of that period of time where I was super visible and it's okay, bro, you're going to make a mistake. But it's all right.
You didn't have a mentor or some
things,
older person in your life who
would cater in that. I didn't necessarily have a mentor who was going, no, I didn't have anyone. No, and also, by the way, it was a super unique circumstance. I mean, like, how many other people, like, you know, I think,
right.
Not many people could even relate to what I was going. I mean, I was like, you know, I think when I got out of the car in Leicester Square, like Keira Knightley, when we were doing Pirates of the Caribbean, and Johnny wasn't there that time, so I guess I was it was like, she was like, he's like a one-man boy band. It was crazy, bro. It was crazy at that time. It was bonkers. And
what do people not understand about what that experience is like?
That it creates a pattern of thinking, or it creates an earwig, or that you're overwhelmed the whole time. You're just overwhelmed the whole time. So when you're like just when you see somebody come at you and all they want to do is for you to go, hey, can I get a photo? And you're like, but you're in this feeling of just like, you're just trying to get from A to B. You just want to get from A to B. You got to swim across this field of sharks to get to this island so you can have lunch. Because you're overwhelmed. The feeling of being super overwhelmed by the visibility, by the self-worth aspects, right? I think it comes back, am I enough, right? And you see it play out with all of these wonderful artists. You know, my partner, people in the world, they're all just like trying to put this messaging out because they've been born with it, right? They've been born into it. And they don't quite know how to navigate all of it. And there's a whole thing and there's a whole programming going, yeah, but you got to have this, you got to have, and it's like, no. But just pour more love on it, pour more love on it. And that's what they're really trying to do at their essence. But at times I think they're just so overwhelmed, you know? It's just like, it's like abrasive on the skin.
Yeah,
almost,
and at that age, the brain isn't developed, and it's too much attention, too much money. I mean, you talked about the world being a simulation.
A car crash? Yeah.
You have to imagine, like, it is a simulation. Why is everybody in the world responding to me in this way? Of course that's going to fuck with you and make you crazy.
And your ego
and unless you're lucky enough to have some, you know, be surrounded not with yes people who are financially invested in whatever you're doing, but like objective people who have your best interest at heart and aren't afraid to tell you what's what. Like, you know, you're going to go sideways.
I had my manager was always so wonderful. And in a way, like I didn't, you know, I stopped working there recently, not because I didn't love her, and I do love her and I miss her and I kind of but because I needed to like fly. I needed to let go I needed to build something out because she had been this protector in some ways as well. You know, she was amazing. So, but I think the real, it's an interesting little pool to navigate. And I think I do have a great therapist, and he gives me this analogy. It's like getting into a burning juggernaut, right? It's like you get in, and everyone goes, "Oh my God, look, the juggernaut's it's on fire, it's gonna explode," and everyone's like, "Wow!" And then you got to be able to go, okay, getting out now, guys. Douse me down, get me back. Okay, am I good? Yeah, we're good, bro. You had the suit on, you're good. You can get out, and then. But I think for some people, they just think the burning juggernaut is the thing. But it's not. You got to be outside of that, right? Like the burning juggernaut is the thing that you get paid to do for that 15 minutes or whatever that may be. Blah, 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 blah. You're going to be in that, but then you got to get out. And then you got to go, okay, what are the things that I can do in my daily life that help me to navigate it? Now, I was 16 when I was learning how to cook pasta for myself and survive. So I know how to do that. But like, you have to keep learning those things because, by the way, when you get older and you've got somebody who's making food or whatever, you put yourself in a position where. But it's like, so what are the things that keep bringing you back? The walk in nature, the bike. What are the things that just keep bringing you back to doing the work? Because if you're not doing the work, whatever that means for you, then it's going to come and bite you.
Yeah.
Right.
And the work is the thing.
The work is
the thing. But how does that mesh with somebody who's so prone to these heightened peak experiences, who experience them to an extraordinary degree as a young person, right? Like you can't, as somebody who's going to always chase like what's the next exciting thing, it's impossible to match like Pirates and Lord of the Rings, but to remember it's about the work, you know what I mean? And like, you're still doing the work, and the work is the thing, and you're really good at it, and you're sharing your art and your craft and, you know, all of it. But it's a different thing now.
I think it's like a canvas. And I think the canvas in this lifetime will come to an end when I drop this flesh sack. You know what I mean? But until then, I'm painting a picture and I'm just going to keep going. And if it's a dark purple because I've F'd something up, or if it's a bright pink because I did the right thing, at the end of my life, I'll look at the canvas and go, cool, bro, nice one. And then back, you know? But the colors of my canvas, I don't want to be just a whole bunch of pinks and pale yellows and pale blues. I want the rich colors. I want that stuff. Even if I don't mentally want it, because I'm like, I don't want to deal with it. I actually do. I know I do. History has taught me that I do. Circumstances have taught me that I do. So if I just keep, and then just keep shouting, just keep doing it, just keep painting it. It's okay, this too shall pass, all of it. All those old adages, right? All those idle hands, there's a devil's playground. You wonder, like, this simulation? Yeah, bro. Somebody went like, like, throw this one in.
Well, and the Buddhist idea of impermanence also.
Yes.
You know, it's all a sand mandala that's, you know,
Yes.
blowing in the wind.
And
right?
We're here like this, right? Like, you know.
But the canvas that you're painting with Edge, this TV show, is different in that it's you. Is this the first thing you've done where it wasn't a character, you're on screen being yourself?
Totally.
So it's not surprising that you have a heightened sense of like vulnerability.
Yeah, I'm
doing the show and now talking about the show and being out there and being who you are.
Yeah. It's really like a lot, and I'm grateful, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's been a lot in my head. Yeah.
Who are the people that inspire you? Like, who do you look to for guidance, counsel, in art, in life, in lifestyle, in well-being?
So Daisaku Ikeda was at the top of that list because just because that's been part of it. I have a core group of like Buddha brothers who I just like refer to when I'm like, and I like David, who introduced me. I love how he lives. Celeste, who's this remarkable artist, founded the Trevor Project. Amazing. Celeste Lacine. My best friend, Mark White, who's like kept me centered, and Gibbo, who you see on the show. Like, we have this little, so those are the people that I'd kind of like look at.
It says a lot. It says a lot that your closest friends are the people that you grew up with, that you've known for such a long time.
I think I needed to choose family, and I think I was fortunate, and I feel like it's very mystical. I definitely feel it's very mystical. The same way that I still, Daisaku Ikeda was like, oh, I feel like these guys, we've just found each other again in a way. That's how my brain works. So I'm sorry if that doesn't work for you, but that's how it works for me, and I definitely feel that way. Those boys, that team. Then I think education was always a real challenge up until I went to drama school, where I felt like I got my first dose of real education, because like I was like, metaphysiology was like the writings of, the metaphysical poets like John Donne or Milton, and that language helped me to understand what I was reading, and helped me to key into my imagination, because otherwise I think I was just really like, so yeah, like, and then I'm amalgamation of all my own, there are books that I've read that like had an impact, like at different times, but like I think I try to keep coming back to that, like the Daisaku Ikeda capsules, because it's also like bite sized and I can swallow it, and it really resonates for me. But like I remember reading Perfume by Patrick Suskind, and it was like, wow, that was like, what a the journey that character went on, and I don't know, like I know it's Ayn Rand, but The Fountainhead was like, that was not, she's like some of the thinking in there, but but there were just lots of different at different times. But because reading was such a struggle for me as well, it's like listening is much easier. So now I get much more, like listening to your podcast.
Audio books.
Audio is really hard. Yeah. And like, like there are so many experts on your show. It's like, I was like, that gives hope. Doesn't that give hope? Don't you sit in front of people and go, oh, there's hope. You know what gives me hope? The young people. Like, I feel like.
Elaborate.
Well, my son's 13, and I'm like, he doesn't want the things that he's like, I bought him a pair of Travis Scott sneakers, and he's like, great, but he's not really attached to them. He left them behind. He didn't take them home with him. Do you know what I mean? Or hopefully they're not so driven by the need to consume, but experiencing the world. And what's the best way to experience the world? Nature, life, right? So what are we doing? We're ruining it for them. So they're going, we want to go and swim in that lake without having to wear like a wetsuit because the sun's gonna, or whatever. Like maybe the young people, once this old, hopefully, not speaking to anyone or anything, but like, there's a lot of like, hopefully those young people are just going to be like, and Sensei Ikeda always refers to the young people.
There is something to that. There's certainly a level of empathy and a kind of more purposeful, meaning-driven sensibility to
hope.
Gen Z. Yeah, like it's not about like I don't get the sense that they're all gunning to go work at Goldman Sachs. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's more important to have experiences and to, find something that is giving back and gives them a sense of
hopefully we've
meaning.
showed them that.
You know what I mean? I don't know. No, I think it's a reaction.
Yeah,
it's a
exactly.
It's a reactionary impulse. You know what I mean? But to your point of like earthly desires will be your teacher, like our example, good or bad, is creating that, right? Whether it's reactive or influenced by, matters less than the fact that it is happening. And I take comfort and hope in that as well. I think that is, that is interesting. And the young people, historically always they get grief. They're, what are they doing? Blah, blah, blah. But, I see a lot of hope in the younger generation. So your son's 13, right? So he's just sort of coming online with what he's into and what he wants to be and what he wants to do, which is an exciting time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting.
We've barely even talked about like acting at all. And this is really about, you and the show, but what is it about acting that gives your life meaning? Like, what is it that you're channeling that feels resonant and important to you, that keeps you coming back to it?
The opportunity to portray a character and hopefully shine a light on, with compassion, on the experience of that character. And if you're doing it well, which I don't know that I've done, sometimes it's a bit hit and miss, but like, which is why I love doing it, because I'm trying to get better all the time, is that you're shining a light. Lear is a great one, right? You watch Ian McKellen do Lear and it's like,
you suddenly understand Shakespeare
compassion.
When you see him do it.
The compassion of a broken human, because we're all broken. We're all, we're all lost, looking for it, right? So the opportunity in performing a character is like, I'm going to get to shine a light on the psyche of this person, and my job is just not to F that up and to really understand what the psyche of that character is. And sometimes you get an amazing character to do that with, and sometimes it's like, character, well, I'll try and create something and fill in the blanks for that character. But, but I just keep throwing myself at everything and into it because so long as it's like resonates, I feel like I'm going to learn something. And like, my cousin used to say when we go to see movies, like, there isn't a bad movie. You learn something from all movies, even the worst movies, you learn something from. Like, don't do that, But like, I don't think anyone endeavors on an artistic, exhibition, like creating a movie with the intention of making it bad. Of
course
it's
not.
just,
there's so many.
levels of-
It's amazing any movie even gets made, and then an
it's lightning in a
absolute
bottle.
miracle when a
and
movie
by the way,
is good.
with the advent of AI, I mean, what's it all going to look like 10 years from now?
I don't know. I think the movie industry is very much in question right now, and it's trying to figure out a way forward. Like, what does it mean? Where is its place
And
in
yet,
a
a movie
culture
like
that is not?
Oppenheimer and Barbie can make
They break out. They break out, and they're incredible. But by and large, like, it isn't. We don't. It's a good thing that we're not in a monoculture anymore. But there's something lost also when we don't all come together as a collective to enjoy a piece of art in the way that we did when we were kids.
Yeah.
That I have some nostalgia for, I think.
I agree.
And it's not a judgment. Like, I don't know that any of this is good or bad, but I just think it's changed and it's continuing to change. And I think that change is going to accelerate. I don't see AI upending movies per se for quite some time. It's really hard to imagine that. As good as the technology could be.
There's
I think
a first
the humanity
move in AI which is yet to be, which we're still, and I keep trying to think, what's that first move? You know, what is that going to be, and how much of that? Because it'll be, you know, interesting. But I'm like, you know, what is it going to look like? Because at some point, you know, that it's. I was fortunate to hear Sam Altman speak on some of these issues at a conference, and he just said, and it was so interesting. So, you know, Flynn has not known a world without the internet, right? I grew up without the internet. I didn't have any of it. Didn't have a mobile phone, so we, you know, as we didn't have. Yeah. My daughter is never going to understand a world without super intelligence. Super intelligence.
Yeah. And what does that? What does that do? What does that mean? What does that look like? Yeah. What is that?
How do you combat that? And he actually said something which is what Isaku Ikeda has said. It's going to be about the inner revolution. And I think it's going to be about discipline. Because I think it's going to be the people that learn how to say no to their spending 10 hours swiping or whatever you need to do on your phone, or buying, or the people who have the discipline to simplify, right? To come back to the basics, right? Perhaps those are the people that aren't the NPCs, as they're called, right? Who are going to be the ones that move forward and actually have an impact. Because I think everybody's got the opportunity to have an impact. It's just whether you know it, or whether you were raised with the opportunity to understand that, or whether, you know, your makeup has given you that, has posed that possibility for you.
That's an interesting idea. It makes me think of you know, how one comes up with a new idea. Like, you have to sort of step outside the matrix and not be influenced or part of a certain kind of machine in order to see things differently and take a stand for a new idea.
Right.
And when super intelligence and the internet is sort of commandeering all of our attention all of the time, and the algorithms are dictating what we see and what we read and what we hear.
I love my algorithm, by the way.
Those algorithms start to program us, right? And then it becomes harder and harder to have an original idea.
That's right. That's
right. What is part of what Sam or maybe you are saying.
Yeah, that's right. And there are people that just are uniquely gifted at having a unique idea, by the way. Not everybody. We're all, you know, some people, I do think some people are born lucky than others, you know. There's not, I mean, certainly you can make a certain amount of your luck, but it depends how much work you're willing to do. And I think that, like, we are being conditioned into thinking less work is more. But I think, you know, like that old adage, like we said, about the idle hands make for the devil's playground. Because actually, I think just getting up and moving some dirt or planting something or doing something physical, whatever it may be, there's such benefit to that, you know?
And so what does that daily routine look like for you when you're not working?
There's a routine, but it's like, there's something. I mean, it's, you know, if there's definitely a chanting, there's definitely a moving my body, trying to sweat. There's definitely, you know, getting into the sun and moving into nature. There's definitely, if I have the opportunity, you know, different times. And then I'm trying to vary it all up, you know, trying to mix it up, like, so that my body doesn't expect the same things, or my mind or my experience isn't the same. So, like, but I'm not one for sitting down and around much, you know. I'm more like, you know, moving. So I could keep learning to sit down and around more, maybe read, study more would be good to add to my.
What about the fitness piece? I mean, you're incredibly fit in the show.
Thanks, man.
You look pretty fit right now.
I'm all right.
What is that?
Because of my back injury, a lot of it is like, you know.
Does that cause you pain to this day? It does.
To a certain, not massively, to be fair. Actually, not massively, but it just requires stabilizing my spine, right? You know, because the spine is a weird thing, right? Isn't it? It's a little funny, you know. Anyway, so yeah, just functional work now. Like, I think I just did this movie, which I'm really proud of, called The Cut, that I produced, and it's going to come out. But I had to drop. It's a boxing movie, but the fight is making weight, like they call it cutting weight. And I dropped from 185 pounds to 185 I'm about 180 right now, as I sit in front of you. I went to a 151.
That's legit.
And
Over how long of a period of time?
2 months, something like that. And it was what was going on in my brain, the dehydration, because I was cutting water. I was like, I threw everything at it to get to it. And the final thing, right, I was sitting at 160-ish, 160 something for like weeks to the end. And then this wonderful nutritionist, Philip Golly, who like had helped some great actors do their thing as well. He's in Santa Monica. He said, all right, he timed everything out, but he was like, now's the Epsom salt bath. So I get into an Epsom salt bath with 25 pounds of Epsom salt in the bath, and I get into it, boiling hot up to my neck. And I'm like, I have videos of me just like, which is what the fighters do actually. And that's what we do in the movie as well. So it's
the movie is about cutting weight as a boxer.
As a boxer.
Right?
It's called The Cut. It's about making weight. Sean Ellis directs it, John Turturro, Katrina Balfe, and myself, and then a wonderful cast supporting actors. And we shot it for no money in London, just like last summer. And it was, anyway, so I get out of this bath. He said, chug 2 bottles of water. And like nearly, I had people helping me get into the bed. Because again, no barrier, no gatekeeper, push it super far, drink the water, get in. I woke up in the morning and I don't know, it's osmosis, but I dropped 10 pounds overnight.
Wow.
10 pounds
so
of water
it's just
weight.
seeping out of your skin.
It was wild.
To
we have the video, we have the photos, and I'm like on the
sodium
scale,
in
like,
the
yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was wild.
10 pounds overnight.
Yeah. And that took me to
151.
Then I was living in this space, just eating cucumber and tuna, tins of tuna, like, because basically, and like hardly any water for like, until I got, so we started the movie, we filmed the final scene is him like standing on the scales going,
making weight.
And there's a part to it which is, it's a slightly crazy thing that he does to get there finally, because anyway, I won't spoil it, but it was wild. Anyway, and he's like, so we started the movie at that point, and then I had to put on weight as we went through. So the crazy thing was, there's me going, wow, at different points I'm like, wow, 169 looks pretty good, bro. Or and it's all really about male, the male body dysmorphia. I mean, you can speak to this too, right?
Yeah.
It's like we're so overly aware of what we look like and stuff. So part of the movie, we're all like that, by the way. And I realized that everybody's got a eating disorder. You know what I mean? It's like the movie is about that. The look at all of that stuff. Like, why do we do this to ourselves, right? I like to say it's because I want to improve the way I think and feel. So I'm eating from my brain now, right?
Right.
Which I think is...
That's convenient.
Been convenient way to... Yeah. I like to do that. That's my ego.
What did it feel like when you were 151? Like there is a weird... euphoria with that, right?
It was the weird. I mean, I was like paranoid. I was having paranoid attacks. I was totally like the dehydration and everything. I was like, I was really struggling, and I was open and vulnerable. I was like, I literally sometimes was holding people to move around because I was so dehydrated as well. Because I'd taken things to help with the dehydration, so I was like out, and my bones like that was where my body was like, okay.
Were you having blood work done, and
yeah,
sort of, you were medically supervised doing that?
Somewhat.
Yeah.
Not when I got to England.
I mean, that's like Machinist territory.
Here I was
that movie, The Machinist.
Yeah. Well, a guy who I work with. Yeah, he's worked with Christian Bale. I'm not sure on that one, but he's worked with him, Bale, on some stuff. I love Christian. Actually, part of a really great performance, when you actually put your body through that, that's what will come of it.
Sure, because you're actually doing it. You're living it.
You're living
right?
it.
So obviously that's going to translate onto the screen.
Yeah. Every aspect of it.
Yeah, that's very that's very method though too. I guess you kind of have to. You're not going to be able to costume your way through that.
I mean, no, and also like, I wanted to burn the barn down on this one. It's like I kind of had been developing it for years with this producer, and getting to make it, like we said, is lightning in a bottle, and who knows.
How do you choose your parts?
It's not like I get to be honest, I know what like there was a period where it was just all top drawer material and I'm getting sent, and it's like, I don't know. I had a really great manager, and a lot of it was like, can't see the wood for the trees. There were things I look back and I go, how did I miss on that? Because I remember that being on my path, but I didn't do that.
Yeah.
And I didn't do that. Why? What? Oh, I did this. Okay. But that's, so letting go, like everything is. So now it's like, I don't want to leave my family too much, but there's nowhere I'd rather be than on set. So I'm like, and of late, you know, I would say in the last few years, a lot of it has just been like, let's roll the dice, see what happens. I don't know. There's variables here that don't add up ordinarily, you know, like.
And of course, there's a very kind of low hanging fruit joke around with your show, right? Like, is this not just a big, sort of Mission Impossible audition? Like, is there some upsmanship for Cruise to
1,000
feast his eyes on
100%.
here?
Who knows? You know? Like, I don't know if he's done wingsuit.
He has. I don't think he has. He's done a lot of shit, but I don't know if he's done wingsuit.
Somebody told me though, and by the way, he is. I consider him to be the head of the arrow. He has been a movie star.
Well, the stuff he's doing
has been
is
the
wild.
front of the movie.
Yeah,
He is, and he is like nothing but hats off. He produced a movie I did with Cameron Crowe called Elizabethtown, and I have the utmost respect for that man. But it is interesting because he does it all, and he just does it all. He just keeps showing up and doing all of it.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
he's got no time for anybody one-upping him though.
No.
You know what I mean?
Isn't that interesting?
I don't think he's interested in having anyone come in and take over the Mission Impossible
I think
franchise.
somebody told me, actually.
He's going to do it until,
he's going to do it. He's going to wingsuit into a car in the next Mission Impossible.
That's how he's going to go out.
I think somebody told me that if he hadn't done it, which I think maybe, I don't know if he's done it, but I wouldn't, but I think part of it was like, you don't see it on film in the same way. Like wingsuiting, it's hard to see, but it's the fastest. You're moving faster than anything. Right. It's the fastest we can possibly move, without, and you're cutting through the sky. But it doesn't. It's hard. I don't know if you saw in the show because we went over water, so maybe you see it. But it's. But hard.
You have that long lens shot where you can see the water moving beneath you really quickly, which gives you a sense
and there's some other shots, but it's hard to capture. Whereas skydiving, there's you can get like.
Yeah,
a bunch of guys who really know what they're doing in the air to catch you like that, which he's done epically, and made a remarkable, and the jumping and with the bike. It was, I'd love to do that. Imagine you're getting paid and he loves it. For sure, he loves it. But now there's a guy who's like an expert at everything.
He's been doing it for a very long time. And he's surrounded himself with an incredible team of people that facilitate and train him to be that guy. Yeah, he fucking doesn't he goes all the way, dude.
Yeah, he does.
He's speaking your language on some level.
Oh yeah, we definitely had. But as you said, the low-hanging fruit is this just a massive commercial
one
for
gigantic
my next franchise that I'm, by the way.
It's just one big audition tape, right?
Hey, there is that
out
aspect
there
to it.
In Hollywood.
There is that aspect to it. And probably in the back of my brain, there's a part of me which is like, what have I got left to prove, And what else do I, But hopefully people will come back to just the humanity of it. Because I think it's more about humanity. And I try to have that play throughout all the characters.
Sure. There's a sense of like, what am I, I'm trying to prove to myself that I can do these things, that I can do hard things, be on the edge, learn something about myself. But fundamentally, the greater lesson that you're also trying to embrace is that you're already enough, dude.
Right. Yeah.
You deserve to be loved for exactly who you are right now. You don't have to go out and accomplish anything in order to be entitled to that.
Well, I really hope that's the takeaway for everyone.
Yeah.
They all go, I'm enough. You know what I mean? Because that's where that lands. And that's that's also life. That's the trajectory. And I love it. It's not like I'm not having a great time. I'm not, it's not like, I meant it when I said I've never feel so alive when I'm that close to death. It wasn't, it was all these things, these thoughts and feelings as I blur, but they all came out because I was like, under these pressure cooker of feelings and emotions. I remember I had this assistant, Lindsay, who became a producing partner because I worked with her so long, and this is all she ever wanted to do, work in this space. She's actually doing that with her husband now. And but I was like, I'd be screaming, why am I wearing this t-shirt? I was like trying to control, like the only thing I controlled was this t-shirt that I'm wearing. Why am I wearing this t-shirt? What's this? What is this the right one? Because there was like continuity to the show. I was overly focused on all these little things. You know what I mean? So that's an aspect of my other brain, which is like,
that's just your fear, like trying to hold on to something, right? Yeah,
something. In
a situation in which you have no control.
It's not me, it's you.
Yeah.
It's that. But.
Well, you did a great job. Maybe before we shut this down, any last thoughts about what you want people to take away from the experience that you had, that you're sharing in this show, or just in life from your path, this kind of extraordinary journey that you've been on?
I think sometimes just pouring more love on it, because loving is the hardest thing. Sometimes the most scary thing, the most vulnerable thing. It's just to keep loving. Just keep giving more love to self first so that you can give to others, but just pour more love on it.
I think that's a pretty good way to end it.
Cool. Thanks,
good job, man. We did it.
We did it.
Good? Feel all right?
Yeah, I'm like, I feel like I've just gone through the ringer, and I've overexposed myself, and I'm gonna just,
You're in a supportive, loving environment, my friend.
Yeah, I know. I feel
we're
that.
here for you, buddy.
I feel that, and thank you so much.
Yeah, it's great.
And,
I loved it, man. I loved getting to know you a little bit. It was really cool.
Thanks, man.
I appreciate it.
Well, I love what you're
so
doing
honest.
and the messaging you're putting out there, and I feel honored that like. My little conversation will be up amongst some of those remarkable conversations that I've been listening to. There is an education in your show for everyone to have.
Trying to.
Mate, come on. It's brilliant. I'm like, that's the school of life. I mean it when I said I'm really grateful for the call, because you curate some remarkable thinkers.
Thanks, man.
It's been cool I'm going back now because I had to,
I got 800 and some odd number of them for you.
I know.
Keep you busy for a while. Keep your dyslexic brain
engaged.
sated.
Exactly. Maybe that's my new school, the school of Rick Roll.
All right. Well, come back whenever you feel like sharing a little bit more.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. I think you've wrung me dry for a while.
Right on. Peace. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. I truly hope you enjoyed the conversation. To learn more about today's guest, including links and resources related to everything discussed today, visit the episode page at richroll.com, where you can find the entire podcast archive, my books, Finding Ultra, Voicing Change in the Plant Power Way, as well as the Plant Power Meal Planner at meals.richroll.com. If you'd like to support the podcast, the easiest and most impactful thing you can do is to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and on YouTube, and leave a review and or comment. This show just wouldn't be possible without the help of our amazing sponsors who keep this podcast running wild and free. To check out all their amazing offers, head to richroll.com/sponsors. And sharing the show or your favorite episode with friends or on social media is, of course, awesome and very helpful. And finally, for podcast updates, special offers on books, the meal planner, and other subjects, please subscribe to our newsletter, which you can find on the footer of any page at richroll.com. Today's show was produced and engineered by Jason Camiolo. The video edition of the podcast was created by Blake Curtis, with assistance by our creative director, Dan Drake. Portraits by Davey Greenberg, graphic and social media assets courtesy of Daniel Solis. And thank you, Georgia Whaley, for copywriting and website management. And of course, our theme music was created by Tyler Pyatt, Trapper Pyatt, and Harry Mathis. Appreciate the love the support. See you back here soon. Peace. Plants.